Hello and welcome to another video. It's almost impossible to come across someone who doesn't have a social media account. It became a necessity in today's world. For most of us, it's our primary source of information, connections, and entertainment. We might not have realized it, but there are a lot of things that have changed in our life since we have started using social media, primarily because of its effect on our brain. Of course, it has its own pros and cons, but here in this video, we'll focus on the idea of how social media is affecting your brain. So hit the subscribe button and the bell beside it, and let's jump in. Social media is destroying your most valuable skill. Social media companies are literally spending billions of dollars every single year just to find more creative ways to make you spend more time on their site. Because the more time you spend on their site, the more money they make. But unfortunately, that comes at the cost of hurting your brain in a way that you might not have realized it yet. There is something in your brain that's called dopamine. It's a little neurotransmitter that's responsible for your motivation. It controls your reward system. Everything we do is because of this dopamine receptor, the part of your brain that realizes the reward and craves for it until you get that reward. So it increases every single time you get the reward and then comes back to its normal level after that. Drugs, for example, significantly increase your dopamine level up to 400 if you take cocaine, for example. And the reason we get addicted to them is because after boosting our dopamine many times to that level, our new average becomes much higher. So the only thing we'll be motivated to do is what will increase our dopamine level above that average. That's why you find most drug addicts losing interest in hobbies, socializing, and everything else, because most of what we do daily raises our dopamine level to less than 200, which is lower than the average of drug addict. That's why drug addicts are comfortable even to live in the streets as long as they get the dopamine boost from that drug. And surprisingly, social media has the exact same effect. Of course, it doesn't increase your dopamine level to 400, but slightly lower than that. Every time you get a notification on your phone, your dopamine level spikes, and that's why you straight away check your phone to see what's there. Or when you are looking into your newsfeed, for example, you keep scrolling down because your brain is anticipating a reward. The next post might be something you like, something that you might enjoy. That's the reward that your brain is expecting. That's why you keep scrolling. And what happens over time is that your new average of dopamine becomes higher than the normal, and you find yourself every 5 minutes checking your Facebook, for example, just to see if there is something new. So it gets difficult for you to stay concentrated doing something productive because other things just don't spike your dopamine level as much as social media. In other words, social media is destroying your most valuable skill, which is your attention. And that drives us to the second point, which is it damages your memory. The problem isn't just about struggling to stay focused because of social media, but rather these little minutes in between when you try to do something productive becomes extremely ineffective. Let's say, for example, you want to read a book. That information first goes into your short-term memory, and then after a while, especially when you sleep, it transfers into your long-term memory. That's how learning actually happens. But when you're constantly distracted by social media, this process becomes a mess. Because once you learn something, it straight away gets replaced with what you read on social media. So even if you spend an hour studying or reading, that information doesn't get properly stored into your long-term memory because of these distractions. In other words, you just wasted your time. I guess you are already tired of listening of how social media is damaging your brain, and you want to know what can you do about it. The first thing you want to do is to bring down your dopamine average to its normal level. So activities such as reading books, going to a gym, or simply going out with friends will start appearing interesting enough to your brain. The best solution is, of course, to delete all of your social media apps, but it's almost impossible to live without them because for some of us, it's the main tool to connect with others. But try at least to quit it for a couple of weeks until you get rid of your addiction and then come back to it. But this time you will be able to control yourself since you are no longer addicted. But if you can't, at least whenever you're working, just turn off your Wi-Fi if you don't really need it. Or as I prefer to do it, keep my phone far away from my table or use apps such as Stay Focused. Just keep in mind that in the first couple of days or more, it will be very difficult to restrain yourself, but then it gets much easier. Another thing I found very helpful is meditation, is to keep everything aside and try to focus on one thing for as long as I can. Start with 5 minutes and then go up to half an hour if you can. That will strengthen your attention and will give you the willpower to stay focused even when your phone is vibrating with notification. That's all for today. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.